So here is in 2023, 706.15b talks about location and control. So this is new in 2023. So here's that list again. It's very similar to the 2020 language, but it's not exactly the same. And one of the key things there is if you look at that, the first sentence in there, disconnecting means shall be readily accessible and shall comply with one or more of the following. So we have to have it be readily accessible, and that's a definition in Article 100. Encourage you to go look at if you need to. Readily accessible is a disconnect that the person who needs ready access can walk up to. They're not going to have to use a ladder. They don't have to move any equipment. They don't have to move things out of their way. It's something they can access, but it is something that could be behind a locked door because the person who needs that access would have the key. So a key is not considered a tool in that case. So that's something just to keep in mind. But the list that we have here is located within the ESS, within sight, and within 3 meters or 10 feet of the ESS. And the reason why that they list out the site and within 3 meters, this is important to note just because code, if you go look in Article 100 definition of within sight, it's visual and within 50 feet. So in this case, we've shrunk down what within sight means, or what the allowance would be, the distance allowance is for that disconnect. But then that final allowance says that we can have a disconnecting means that's not located within sight as long as the disconnect can be locked in accordance with 110.25. So if you go back to 110.25, that requirement just says that the locking mechanism shall remain in place without the lock. So if you think about lockout, tagout, sometimes we have breaker locks. Put the breaker into the off position. You put a little lockout on there, and you put your lock in place, and you can't turn that breaker back on. But that little piece is removable, so it doesn't stay there all the time. But if you have a disconnect with a hasp on it, or you have a disconnect with a latch on it where you can place a lock, and that lockable mechanism remains in place, whether or not the lock is there, that meets the requirements. So this is going to be, the guiding principle for our requirements on the disconnecting means, and how we are going to apply those.